So we're going to continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 11. Tadvad Visargo Janata Gaviplavo
Tadvaga-visargo janata viplavo
Yasmin Pratishlokam Aptavate Ape
yasmin pratitlokam abhadhaivatai api
Namani Anantasya Yasho Nikitani
namani anantasya yasho niktani yat
Shanvanti Gayanti Ganananti Sadhavaha
snavanti gayanti kanananti sadhava.
We'll read the translation.
Yeah, I'll read.
Please.
Yeah, translation. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words directed towards bringing about a revolution in the impious life of this world, misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Purport. It is a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stalk of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord. The polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing this commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field, yet we see that previously there were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God fearing, pure hearted, and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There is no cause of quarrel between the two countries. China and India over land, which is not very suitable for habitation, and certainly there is no cause of fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there is always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there is a propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world to do all the supermost good as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. Because India has failed in her duty by neglecting their responsible work, there is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature, conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re spiritualizing the world atmosphere, is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter in adequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail, and yet, and there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in the connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there is a fire in a house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors, who may be foreigners, and yet, without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast the transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it's a technical science of spiritual value, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success.
So here Sutta Goswami is saying, we heard about the crows and the swans, that the crows, they like to be where the garbage is, but the swans, they're always in the lotus-filled lakes, beautiful place. So even birds have their nature. Similarly, we human beings also have our nature. When we are talking about gossip, all that, then we are exhibiting our crow-like nature. But if we take pleasure in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord, that is exhibiting our swan-like nature. And then these glories of the Lord, the literature which is glorifying the Supreme Lord, His name, fame, form, pastimes, what do? That they change our heart. They bring about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. So we can also see currently there is so much unrest going on in different parts of the world. Currently, 2 wars are going on. There's protests in so many countries. So revolution, everyone wants to have a revolution. But the real revolution will come when we become God conscious, functioning as a God conscious society. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita helps in that. And then Sutta Goswami is saying that even there must be some discrepancy in composing such literature. But because they're glorifying the Supreme Lord, they're accepted by the authorities, by the sadhus, by the devotees. Because there's an honest attempt to glorify the Lord. So there may be, because you're translating from one language to another, so there may be some translation error, some kind of, grammatical mistake or something, as Prabhupada is saying. But because there's honest attempt to glorify the Lord, so that attempt is glorious indeed. And the message remains intact. The main message to glorify the Supreme Lord, that is intact. So Prabhupada is saying that we all should attempt to glorify the Lord. And Krishna sees that. He says, but we are sure that with all our faults in this, he's speaking about himself, that he's presenting this Bhagavatam in a foreign language. There may be certain literary discrepancies, but he's attempting honestly to present the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this age of Kali is called the age of quarrel, because for just small things people can quarrel, families quarrel, communities quarrel, societies quarrel, countries quarrel. That's the reason we have the wars. So, and here Prabhupada is mentioning that one who's intelligent, what he should do. What are the few things is written here?
He should choose a good, no, from bad, even from the bad.
Yeah, choose a good even from the bad. So, examples he's saying that there's poison, but there is still nectar there. Take that. There is dirt, but there is gold. You take that. Wife is good, even if she's coming from a family. What she's coming is not so good. Still take that and get the lessons from someone, even if he's from a lower section. So the saint, what is this? What are the sadhus doing all the time?
In glorifying the Supreme Lord.
And then what happens as a result of glorifying the Supreme Lord and broadcasting the holy name everywhere?
Yeah, the atmosphere will change, polluted atmosphere in the world.
Yeah, because people's heart changes by hearing, glorifying the transcendental literature, by glorifying the Lord, His name, His pastimes. Our heart changes. And that's how this polluted atmosphere can change. Cannot be changed otherwise by any artificial means. But this is the real way to change, bring about peace in society. Studying of Bhagavatam. So we'll continue to read.
When there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, there is no wonder that a person or a nation attacks another person or nation on slight provocation. That is the rule of this age of Kali or quarrel. The atmosphere is already polluted with corruptions of all description, and everyone knows it well. There are so many unwanted literatures full of materialistic ideas of sense gratifications. In many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to direct and censor obscene literature. This means that neither the government nor the responsible leaders of the public want it for sense gratification. The people in general want to read, that is a natural instinct. But because their minds are polluted, they want such literatures. Under the circumstances, transcendental literature like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also it will supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. In the beginning, they may not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar candy. But we should know that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice like condition of sense gratification. When men have a taste for this literature, the other literatures which are catering poison to society will then automatically cease.
So here Prabhupada is again trying to explain the same point because it's so important that, that we have so many of these undesired habits. The desire to read some literature which is in fact going to be very harmful. So that's why Prabhupada is mentioning that the government, the public, they don't want us to, but there's a natural inclination in everyone to commit sinful activity. And then by hearing Bhagavatam, by reading Bhagavatam, this hankering that we have can be pacified because the heart can get purified. So initially one may not like to read Bhagavatam because we are, in a disease condition. And when someone has jaundice, they don't like to drink sugarcane juice. But before, at least, the only cure used to be to drink sugarcane juice. And if you drink sugarcane juice, if you give it to a person who has jaundice, they'll think you're trying to kill them because it tastes horrifying to them. But it's actually very sweet. One who's not diseased can actually taste it. Similarly, we in our disease condition, we may not like to hear Bhagavatam. But the more we hear, the more we glorify Bhagavatam, the more we will relish Bhagavatam. Because, the fever, the disease is going away.
We are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is now presented with so many faults, for it is recommended by Sri Nārada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter.
Oh, I'm sorry. This verse is being spoken by Narad Muni, not Sutta Goswami. Yeah. Narad Muni is telling this to Vyāsadeva. So Prabhupada
Okay.
is saying that he hopes that everyone can read Bhagavatam, appreciate Bhagavatam. It may be presented, there may be literary faults which may happen, no? It's natural. He's saying just accept Bhagavatam, as Narad Muni is saying. So, I'm sorry, let's stop here for today. Yeah. Krishna Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying.